Greetings, thank you for joining me today. I hope wherever you are that life's treating you well. Now, yes, it's the day of the budget, the UK budget, and believe me, I'll be coming back to that in due course. I've just got to digest. There's so much in there to digest, and I've got comments, but I'm going to reserve those until I got a nice stream of thought. Today I'd like to chat about the license, the TV license that is. Now, you've probably seen my previous video on the TV license letter that's been circulating, the one that suggests you've logged in with your email address linked to your home address, you know, to watch the BBC iPlayer, watch streaming live TV on the BBC iPlayer. Now, obviously, that's a pack of lies, and there's a lot of people who reported having that letter who don't own a telly, don't watch live TV, and certainly would never use the iPlayer, and they're very, very certain that no one in their household has logged on either. So clearly it's part of a random campaign that they're running, trying to scare people out of the woodwork, much like they did in the old days when they would send the TV license detector vans, the TV detector vans, to so-called detect a telly being watched in your house behind closed doors. Obviously they were just empty vans, again meant to scare people into buying a license. There is no easy way to prove that somebody has been watching live TV. Now, you know, now there are a lot of people out there who say, well, I just watch it occasionally, so I'm not going to buy the license. Well, I mean, morally, if you're using the service, albeit on a small scale, there's an argument to be made that maybe you should have a license. I'm not saying if you use the service that you should not buy the license, because, you know, if you're using it, you should contribute. It's morally right, but not me to preach morals at you. That's just how I feel. But we don't watch BBC TV in this household, not in any way, shape or form. We don't appreciate the way the organisations run. Now, the World Service and the radio that they put out in yesteryear was of a reasonable quality, but there's always been a level of bias to the reporting, and has become more and more objectionable as I've got older. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm becoming less tolerant. Who can say? Maybe I'm just seeing more. Back in the old days, when I was a youngster, I only noticed things weren't being done. So, you know, we had classic telly, that like the sci-fi, that wasn't produced after a while. You know, they would suddenly cut short fine telly. Blake 7 being a cracking example, just cut short in its prime, with little explanation. And they did a similar number on Doctor Who before bringing it back. You know, they made many, many blunders over the years, but that's by the by. That's by the by. The second letter rolls in the other day, and it annoyed me. It annoyed me because it's even harder to ignore. And for a lot of people, this will trigger them to buy a licence, even for somebody that doesn't live in the household. Okay, now, I'll make myself clear. Now, I've hidden the top end of the letter because it's got codes on it, and I don't want it ever being seen by the licence team to know exactly where their letters hit. My take on it is, if you're getting lots of licence letters, don't send them back, don't respond, don't open the door, you know, just ignore them. Ignore them. Don't let them get to you. You know, that's the best response. The best response is no response, because if you respond and send that letter back, you think it's not tied to anything, but there's codes on it. They can work out where it came from, what particular campaign it was, and they know exactly who responded, and they know somebody's at that address, which will cue more letters. You with me? Yeah. Let me know in the comments if that doesn't make a lick of sense, by the way. So, big letters at the top. It says, your no licence status will soon be cancelled. It says, dear Mac Customer Service, we attempted to contact you previously, but we've had no response. Now we're writing to tell you that your no licence needed status is being cancelled if we don't hear from you. Somebody at this address told us that you didn't need a licence. However, our records show that an email linked to this address has been used on BBC iPlayer on a number of occasions over recent weeks. Now, we know that's not the case, because no one in our family, in this household, or in the extended family, uses iPlayer. We have access to other services. There's no need for anyone to watch live TV. Indeed, if you really wanted to watch live TV, well, you could go down the pub, couldn't you? If you've got a local pub, that is, you know, and watch it there. But really, we've got better things to do with our time. We work like dogs, and at the end of the day, if we watch anything, it's back to back, you know, Netflix and chill, which is the sensible way to do it, advert free, and not like BBC streaming live TV at all. Oh, I've got a cat. Yes, little Moo Moo. Moo Moo the cat, she's very soft and cuddly. Anyway, so the letter differs from the previous letter because that suggested it was just your email address at your house, which is one thing, and that's one pack of lies. This one says it's an email address associated with your address. Now, a house can have many emails associated with it because an email isn't associated with any property at all. You can have many emails and so can other people. And so it's quite possible when someone signs up for BBC iPlayer, that it's quite possible that someone could sit there, use their email address and just associate it with your address, because that way there's no trail going back to them. Clearly, BBC don't have the ability to look at an IP address, which will often be floating, i.e. an identifier to show where you're picking up your internet from, so to speak, be it mobile or whatever. They can't do that, so they're just working on what logs in. So the system isn't secure, it doesn't pin you down to any particular place. The only way they're ever going to make that a registration physically of an address to a physical address, an email address to a physical address, is to make sure they follow up with a letter that you have to receive at the address and respond to in writing with a signature to sign off on it. That's the only way they're going to make that work. Otherwise, it's just a random email address associated with a random address. When you think of how old some houses are, 200-300 years in some cases, this was built 1900s. So, you know, you can tell it's been around a while. There could be quite a potential for a lot of people to be associated with this address. You don't know. It could have been anyone. But I personally don't think that it is traced back to any actual data. I personally think they're just sending this letter to everybody in the area in the hope that they'll scare someone out of the woodwork. Now, a parent, an elderly parent, you know, who wants to look after their kids might receive that and think, oh, you know what, it's not me, it's not the missus, it's not the kid who still lives with us. No, one of our youngsters who lives somewhere else, you know, maybe they're at university or they've moved in with a significant other, one of those, they must have logged in, they must be trying to get by without a licence. I must call up and buy a licence for them. And I know my father would have done it. He'd have gone ahead and done it. He'd been scared to death. If he'd received a letter like that, he would have gone straight to assume that it would have been me that would have logged in and gone ahead and forcibly bought a licence. Now, of course, what happens when somebody calls up and says, well, yeah, well, show me the money, show me the email address that you saw logging in, and I'll tell you who it is. Because then they're going to go, well, I can tell you the correct address to associate with that, and I can go ahead and buy a licence, or not, as the case may be. But I'm willing to wager good money that if I were to call into the BBC and ask them that, they'd either be able to show me no email address at all, or they would try and hide behind, oh, data protection, yada, yada, yada. And I'd get nowhere. And meanwhile, of course, someone's responded to the letter and they know to send me more blessed letters. So, yeah. The best response? No response. The best response is to get yourself one of those camera doorbells. You know, the ones you can view it remotely, see who's at your door. And if the wrong person should turn up your door, you know not to be in, don't you? Yeah. Yes, I've got quite enough of TVs and TV licensing for now. Anyway, thanks for listening to my rant. I do appreciate your time. Let me know what you think in the comments if you haven't done so already. And whatever you do, have a cracking day. See you soon. And bye for now.